You saw two different models, two different examples through the master planning model that were, I would say, somewhat business related. Now, this is, I'm sure, a business for somebody, but it wasn't for us at the time. It's a personal application of compression planning. And if you think of planning as planning as planning and thinking through an issue, there are things that you can do at work, and there are opportunities to do it outside of work, whether it be with a family, spouse, friends, church groups, other organizations. And this one in particular was when Steph and I got married. And yes, that is me. I heard somebody lean over and go, "I think that's him." And I don't know why they would say that. But if you look at the master planning model, we chose one part, and that's the communications plan. And the reason that we chose that was we knew that there was a lot of information that we wanted to make sure people got, where all the I's dotted, T's crossed. And it was about 2 months before our wedding day, and we were starting to drive each other a little bit crazy with, does so-and-so know this? Does a florist know this? And I'm thinking, do we have a florist? It's just, we were coming at it, and I said, okay, time out. Let's get the boards out and think through this. So on a Saturday morning, Steph, my dad, and I got together, and this is what we came up with in a little over 2 hours. So there are some tasks up there, which is why I have specific messages and tasks, so it's somewhat of a marriage between a communications plan and the action plan. It's not pure communications, but it was so what it worked. We started out by identifying the audience. Who needs to know something? And when you think about a wedding, we'll say experience, you got the thing on Friday, the rehearsal, dinner, and then you got with the church ceremony and the reception afterwards. A lot of people need to know something, but not everybody needs to know everything. Other than the bride, groom, and in our case a pastor, who pops into your minds when you think of needing to know something for a wedding weekend? Who do you think of? Parents, yeah. Maid of honor, best man, caterer, photographer, videographer, florist, cake, music. That list got long and a little depressing really quick because we were paying for it. Once we got the audience identified, then we stepped over and said there is information that they need to know. Time, date, place, directions, how do you get from the hotel to the church, back to the hotel to the rehearsal dinner for out-of-town guests, who's paying for what. And we used the audience, as a springboard for messages. So we'd come up with a message like it would make us think of somebody else, and we'd just jump back and forth. So once we got that done, 1 to 105, we jumped over into the what do they need to know. It's disseminating all the information. And since there were some tasks in there, we started with Stephanie, and she went through, and those were all the numbers that she wanted to take on, make sure we're communicated, got done. But not everybody needs to know everything. Kathy Lucan, she's my aunt. I asked her to do one thing, and you could just see it's pin the flowers on the people who are supposed to get them. Here's a list of who gets what. When the florist arrives, will you please just take care of this? Really, from here on over, hopefully everything that was kind of driving us crazy was now out there in a format that we could deal with. Next step, who will tell them? You can see it says, Pat will write out a letter and send out this entire plan to each vendor. We had a one-page summary. You can get into the hall at this time, you can get into the church at this time, here's contact information. And we put a mark through the numbers as we accomplished them. We kept it up for the entire month, and it just served as our reference, our double check. A couple of the things that it helped surface was around taking the pictures. And almost all of our guests were from out of town. There were a few locals, and I'll say out of town an hour and a half drive, so there was nowhere for them to go after the ceremony. If you've ever been to an out-of-town wedding, you know that time gap between when the ceremony's over, and I look at it as when you get to eat again. If we've been in out-of-town weddings where we don't know, do we go back to the hotel, do we run through McDonald's, what do we do? And we set a goal of trying to get from the church down to the hall in about 25 minutes. That was our goal. So what's the hang-up with why that time frame? Pictures. So we had almost all of our pictures taken before the ceremony. which had its own implications in that we had like a little mini ceremony when I was up in front of this church and Stephanie came in. So when I saw her in their dress for the first time, we thought through that. Yeah, but we wanted to make sure, I mean, we were paying for this. We had a lot of people that have invested to come in. We wanted to get down to the reception, and we probably missed it by about 5 minutes. Just a few quick pictures at the church, and boom, we were down. So it took a lot of emotion, a lot of details, and we were able to process it. We kind of joke about these storyboards as being our marriage mediation tools without a copay. Because we frequently see the end the same, but how we get there are different paths. And when we start going like this and butting heads, it enables us to think through and process.